They are allowed to walk. That is the cruelty of it. A line of prisoners circles a stone yard, each man following the back of the one in front of him. Their shoulders have learned the shape of defeat. Hands stay buried in pockets or locked behind their backs. They move, but the path returns everything it takes. Near the front, one man breaks the rhythm. He wears no cap. His hair is pale, almost red. While the others stare at the ground, he turns and looks straight at us. For more than a century, people have asked whether Vincent van Gogh put himself in that crowd. The answer is uncertain. The reason he might have is the real story of the painting. Prisoner's Round was finished in February 1890, while Van Gogh was living inside the asylum at Saint-Rémy. It is one of his most oppressive works, a small bureaucratic hell built not from fire, but from repetition. Yet the prison itself was not one he had ever entered. The scene began 18 years earlier in another artist's imagination. In 1872, Gustave Doré made an engraving of the exercise yard at Newgate prison for a book called London, a Pilgrimage. It showed prisoners walking in a circle under the eyes of guards and well-dressed spectators. Doré belonged to a tradition that carried images of workhouses, hospitals, and prisons into respectable homes. Misery became visible to people who were otherwise protected from it. Van Gogh knew that world. As a young man in London, he collected illustrated newspapers with almost religious intensity. Long before the sunflowers, he wanted his work to speak for people pushed to the edges of ordinary life. Years later, Doré's prison found him again. Vincent entered the asylum voluntarily in May 1889 after a series of breakdowns in Arles. The institution gave him a bedroom and a second room to paint in. When he was well enough, he worked in the garden and the surrounding countryside. On the days he could not leave the building, the world reached him at second hand, through the window, in memory, and in the prints Theo sent from Paris. Copying did not shame him. He called it a kind of translation, the way a musician interprets a score rather than composing one. Doré supplied the architecture and the figures. Van Gogh supplied colour, paint, and a different quality of air. When he wrote After Doré, he was naming a lineage, not hiding a debt. In February, he told Theo that he had attempted the prison scene and had found it very difficult. That admission matters. It stops us from treating the painting as pure confession. The picture was deliberate. Pain may have sharpened his recognition of the subject, but pain did not arrange the canvas for him. Doré worked in black ink on white paper. Van Gogh keeps the choreography and changes the temperature. The courtyard sinks into blue and green. The flagstones look wet enough to hold winter. High up, a weak, rust-coloured light touches the bricks, but it never reaches the men below. Light exists in this world. It has simply been given to someone else. The walls do most of the violence. They rise beyond the frame and lean slightly inward, as if the building were closing its hand. Small arched windows sit at a height no prisoner could reach. A window usually promises another world. Here it makes that world feel almost insulting. Rooms exist beyond the wall, and life continues inside them. The prisoners receive only the proof. 3 observers stand to the side in dark coats and tall hats. They need no chains, because their stillness is enough. The men below are required to move, while the men above are free to watch, and the whole difference between them is announced through posture. Then the eye returns to the bareheaded man. His pale hair and unsettled face have made people believe he is a hidden self-portrait. Van Gogh never said so, and the resemblance cannot prove it. Still, the figure behaves like the emotional center of the painting. His body stays inside the circle, but his gaze has left it. Every other man follows the back in front of him. This one looks toward the person looking at him. For a moment, we occupy the position of freedom. The encounter is uncomfortable because his expression does not beg for rescue. He looks tired and accustomed to being observed. The painting understands something institutions often forget, which is that seeing a suffering person is not the same as recognizing him. This is why the question of the self-portrait is worth asking, even though it cannot be settled. A man who commits himself to an institution occupies a strange position. He is not a prisoner. He walked in through the door and could, in principle, walk back out. What he cannot do is trust his own judgment about when to go. Vincent had asked to be confined because the alternative frightened him more, which made his confinement a protection and a verdict at the same time. No scene from his own life would have shown that. An exercise yard borrowed from a book, walked by men whose sentences had been handed down by somebody else, could carry it perfectly well. He did not need to have stood in Newgate. He needed a wall, a circle, and one man inside it who was still looking outward. High on the wall, two pale butterflies hover above the yard. They were already in Doré's image, and Van Gogh's colour only makes them easier to find. Their meaning refuses to settle. Transformation is the reading that arrives first, and it is probably too kind. The smaller cruelty is that the lightest things in the picture are the only ones that can clear the wall. The circular walk is what gives the painting its lasting force. It is effort emptied of arrival, motion separated from destination, and left running on its own. The geometry is not confined to prisons. Any life can acquire it, and the acquisition is rarely noticed because motion is so easily mistaken for progress. Van Gogh understood both of the things repetition can do. It confined the men in the yard, and it also held his own days together, because the act of painting, performed again and again, kept him attached to a reality that kept trying to slip away. The difference was never repetition itself. It was whether the practice deepened consciousness or dulled it, whether it returned a person to his life or only returned him to the starting line. This is why Prisoners Round should never be reduced to evidence of the mad genius. Vincent was studying Doré, examining hierarchy, translating monochrome into colour, and solving a difficult composition. The emotion survives because the intelligence is exact. He left the asylum 3 months later and died in July 1890 at 37. It is tempting to turn every late canvas into a prophecy. This painting does not predict his death. It preserves something more lucid, an artist contemplating captivity while living inside an institution designed both to protect him and to contain him. The men keep walking, the walls keep their height, and no gate opens. One prisoner has raised his face anyway. He has not escaped the circle, but he has recognized that it is not the whole world.